Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to jump on here really quick because I just had a really good conversation with an employee of mine. Just how I will never understand how employers treat their employees like shit. Now, I don't know if this is going to piss off people or not. And obviously, if you've watched my other videos, you can tell that I don't really care. Like, I talk about uncomfortable things, I talk about things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And we had this really good conversation because, so she's new with me. Like, I've just hired her not long ago. And being like, I still have a hard time saying boss, being an employer is still really new to me. And I kind of wanted to know a little bit more of why she left her job and if the owner was whatever, if I wanted to know the history about it because I'm always really nosy and curious about how other people treat their employees. And I have experienced some very awful bosses in my life, some terrible bosses. Now, the number one reason that I went into being my own boss is because I don't like my work ethic making somebody else money. So that was one of the biggest reasons. The second reason is because I don't want to answer to anybody else. I don't want to deal with an ungrateful, shitty boss. And I will never, ever understand why employers treat their employees like shit when employees are literally the legs your company is standing on. Okay? So if all your employees decided to strike and not show up, you would not have a business. You would not have a company. And I know that this is so awful in like corporate and just those bigger, I don't want to shit on corporate, I'm just corporate in general, or for example, because employees are like a dime a dozen to them. You know what I mean? Like, and in this, unfortunately, like employees can't even speak up because they're afraid of losing their job because they'll go out and replace you in 2 seconds. That is what I can't stand that. And I've worked with a company that would rather run their employees to the ground than spend the extra money to hire the proper help, the proper amount of people that they actually need. I have gotten in trouble, like they couldn't fire me about it, but they definitely transferred me to a different place because I couldn't keep quiet about it. You're running your employees to the ground all because you're too cheap. That's the bottom line. That's the only reason. And I will never understand that because I literally said, if all of us didn't show up tomorrow, you wouldn't have a company. If your kitchen staff, your housekeeping staff, all the, I don't want to say little people, but the people that they don't seem to take really serious. Or, well, I can go out and replace you. I can get another server. I can get another housekeeper. I can get another whatever it is. And I can't stand that. It makes me so angry when people do that because I'm like, those are literally the legs you're standing on. And being a new boss still it's so weird for me to say, but like when I started hiring people, I cannot say thank you enough, especially to my really good people, like my never late, never miss a day, they're on time, their work is great, all these things. I cannot say thank you enough to them. And like, I'm not one of those people that will kind of start you at a shitty rate to start, and then like you'll get a raise in a year. I will give you a raise if you're that good right off the bat. Like, I will give you that extra money if it takes less stress off of me of finding another person. Like, I will pay them what they're worth because I know what it's like to be one of the best employees or bust my ass for 12, 14 hours and be paid like shit. And it was just a really interesting conversation because yes, I am her boss, technically. Like, it's weird for me to say it, but I don't ever want them to, like, them as employees to ever feel like they can't say something to me. Like if they feel a certain kind of way, like if they deal with a client they're not comfortable with, all these kinds of things. I don't ever want them to feel like they can't tell me that. Like I am very open. Like I respect them as employees because they help my company. Like yeah, I do make more money, but I also employ them. I also give them the opportunity to make money for their families. And I do have things that my company needs to pay for, of course. But I would never, ever treat them like crap. I would never talk to them disrespectful, ever. And I will never understand how bosses and companies do that. Like, you're going to disrespect the legs you're standing on. Like, you're going to basically, you know what I mean? I get so heated about it. And like, don't even get me started on sexual harassment stuff that happens. I'll do a different video on that because that's just a whole other situation. But your employees should never feel scared to call in sick. Okay? Like, yes, there are people who take advantage of things like this. Yes, absolutely there are. There are employees who are a nightmare, of course. But your employees should never, ever be afraid to tell you when they're uncomfortable. They should never, ever be worried about their job because they are uncomfortable or they're not happy with something. They should always, always be able to say, you know what, listen, this is how much work I'm doing. This is how much work other people are doing, and we're getting paid the same amount of money. I can't stand that shit. I was an employee. I did have that happen where you would bust your ass and work hard. Your work would be great. You'd do the overtime, all these things where someone else would be doing the absolute minimum without getting fired that they could possibly do. And you're getting paid the same amount of money. You're getting treated shitty the same as the other lower performing employees. And I can't stand that. That is why I'm so appreciative of the people that work with me. And I don't ever say they work for me. I say that they work with me because I am a working boss. Like, I don't sit at home and boss them and tell them what to do. But I also make it very clear, like, I do have a standard of work that I expect to be met. Of course I do. But I don't ever say, like, you know, you're doing that really stupid. You're doing that really shitty. Like, I never, ever degrade my employees, ever. Because how screwed would you be, or would your company or your whatever be, if all of a sudden your employees didn't show up? Like, I would lose my shit if my employees just all of a sudden said, you know what, screw you, and not come. And I am very blessed with excellent employees, and it was just such an interesting conversation. So I wanted to kind of just, you know, I'm really curious to hear what people, and I know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, yes, like, I get treated like shit. They're not going to be able, they might not even be able to say it on social media because, God forbid, like, their coworker will go tell their boss or whatever. I really hope that people who are thinking about going into business, or people who might be new into entrepreneurship and running businesses and like all these things and being a boss, you really, really need to consider how strong of a position those employees actually have. Okay? And be very careful about how you treat them, because let me tell you, like, if I have a good employee, I treat her very well, or him, I treat them very well. They're going to go tell their friend, and they're going to tell their friend, like, listen, you want a good boss, you got to be able to do the work, and they're going to pull in employees for me because I treat them well. They treat me well, I treat them even better, because that's just how it should be. And I just wanted to, do a video about this because I know that this is so common, and especially in the day and age we're living in, people can't afford to be out of a job. And like, unfortunately, with COVID stuff happening now, like that is extremely common right now. But there are also people who they literally cannot afford to be sick, or can't afford their child to be sick because they might lose their job, which then leads to losing their car, losing their house, losing their childcare, all these things. And it's really sad that that's the level that we're at now, where like you can't take a mental health day, like your kid is sick, you haven't slept, all these things. And I mean, if you can do these things without a fear of losing your job, count your damn blessings, because there are so many people who can't afford to do that. They literally cannot risk their job to take that sick day, right? Or they know that their boss is gonna be like, well, listen, if you're not gonna show up, I'm gonna get someone who will, and that'll be the end of it. And it gets me so heated because I can't stand that. I cannot stand employer disrespect. And having worked for a huge company that did that and treated us like all of us that way, like we didn't matter, or like we weren't literally the legs that were holding that company up, I can't stand that. And I just hope that, things are going to change. And like, if you're going into business, just think about that. Like, employees are extremely important. They are the legs, they are the heart of that company. And the bigger the company, the more employees, the more legs you better start treating right. So tag anybody who might need to see it. Y'all know you're not going to share it to your boss or anything like that, but just share it, tag somebody, and just know, not all bosses are like that. Not all employers are like that. If you have a good boss, be very grateful that you do. If you have amazing employees, treat them like they're amazing. Okay, so thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.